So today's topic is about mica. Mica is a big family of crystals that happens, and you may have seen some of these already. So mica is a mineral that is made, it has a two-dimensional shape. So let's see what does it mean. So here's a few examples. So here's an example of muscovite here. So we have crystal. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Let's make it even bigger. Perfect. As you can see, we have here a mineral that looks like little sheets that are on top of each other, like a book. See if there's another example. There's an example here of biotite, and biotite is what is a mica. That one is black, and you can see here the little layering of what we have here, and we have another group right there. So the reason why I'm discussing that today is that earlier this week, someone was asking about mica, and I figured that was a good topic for us today. So in the previous video, I've mentioned my garnet sample that is right here. And we can see here we have the host mineral that is biotite. Biotite is very similar to the mineral that you have right here on the screen. So I'm sharing with you some samples that I have with my collection. So as you could see here, there's a little reflection. It seems that I have issues with the focus, but you could see here the little reflection of the black biotite made of several little layers. Some of you will question, so how is it possible that we can get the fine layers like this? So often these are found in metamorphic rocks. So what we have, so if you think, for example, how can I say that? If you take, for example, a bread, like a loaf of bread that is this thing, and then you're applying pressure on top and under, and you flatten it like this, if you were to cut it, you will notice that the air bubbles have been squeezed out, and it looks like little layers of dough in the bread. So the same thing is happening when you have mica. So here's another example, and you can see, and I'm going to share some information later. As you can see, here is broken. There's one face here, and you could see there's some shiny areas right here. So what happened here, this is part of a fault line in northern Quebec. So here we had pressure coming from one side going this way and pressure coming this way. So what happened here is we have rocks that was flattened this way. So since we have pressure going this way and this way, so what happened here is that it squeezes, and because there's force going this way and force going this way, the only way that the crystal can grow will be opposing this pressure, and the only way to oppose it is perpendicular. It's perpendicular like this, and therefore you end up with flat layers. Very good. Like we have here with this one here is called biotite. Now, if we go to the Britannica website, here it's we have that the mica is made of, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum depending on the composition of these minerals. So let's see if I can make it a bit bigger so you can see. Perfect. And it seems I have a lot of different ads coming this way as well. Perfect. So if you look here, we have rock forming mica. We have biotite, and biotite is a black flaky minerals like this. As you could see, if there's room to grow, it can form little sheets like this. It's quite nice. We also have phlogopite, and we have lepidolite. So these tend to be darker. I think I have a lepidolite here as well. So here's an example of phlogopite. So phlogopite is not as dark as biotite. It has a little bronzy shade to it. And lepidolite here has a little pinkish purple color. And as you can see, they all made small layers like this. So the reason why I wanted to show you this example right here, so let's go back to this one here. So here we have my example of my garnet in the biotite matrix. So if you think of pressure going this way, and pressure going this way, so it flattened the rock like this. And then if you were to do a section to cut the rock this way, we do that in geology, actually. We call them thin section. If they're thin enough, you can actually look under the microscope. And here you could see the little flakes of mica all along. And we have here the a garnet mineral. And as you can see, the pressure would have gone this way. And if there are waves like this, and the reason for that is that the crystal grew in one part, and then because the rocks was moving, there was a shear zone like this. The garnet started to move in this matrix here. It's quite nice. Very nice. Perfect. If we look at the other ones, we have, so if you look at biotite, phlegopite, and lepidolite here, so all of those here have potassium. We also have aluminum in them and silica. But you could see there's a magnesium and iron that gives here, and this one here, that darker color. Now, how come there's a spectrum of minerals like this? So let's double check. The reason for that is that this is a generic formula for, let's make this a bit bigger. This is a generic formula for Mica family. So what's happening here is that we have X, and X here could be different ions of metals, potassium, sodium, barium, calcium. It could be cesium, or it could be polyatomic ions like this. Then we have the Y portion here, and the Y could be either aluminum, it could be magnesium and iron, lithium, chromium. I'll give you an example later, manganese, vanadium, and zinc. And the Z part right here, and there's 4 here, could be either silica, aluminum, iron, beryllium, or titanium. So what's interesting with mica and garnet, we find them in compression zone, where often there's fluids, and the pressure and the temperature makes it that in the fluid we have movement of ions and atoms. So what happens is that we have enrichment of some ions in some part. But what happens with mica and garnet? I remember in geology we used to call garnet like a garbage mineral, even though some of you love garnet in jewelry. These contain all the leftover ions that were not used in other minerals. Same thing with biotite. And here the mica will take the composition with whatever materials are available at that time. Perfect. So we're going to look here in the second group with the muscovite, paragonite, and glauconite. So here some of it may have also some potassium, but here we're going to have sodium that comes in. We also have calcium that can come in. We also have silicium and aluminum. And you're going to see that often here we have a bit less magnesium and less iron. That makes those a bit lighter in color. So let's see if I can give you an example of, let's see. I'm going to show this one here again. There we go. So you can see, as I mentioned, so here we have potassium, we have sodium, we can have some calcium as well. But as you can see, there's less magnesium and iron, making them lighter in color. There you go. It's always important to show you. So in the second group, we have muscovite. So here it has lost this idea of black color. And here it has more of a greenish shade to it. Now, if you take muscovite here, and we know that mica is in small layers, I was looking at some research, and here's an example on how we have a window. So here we have a window here, and we had here a matrix, but we put the pieces of muscovite here in the windows. I have another example here, a window here with another mica. Now, keep in mind that over the centuries, if you go back even several thousands of years ago, when we created housing, we had to deal with a few things. First of all, if you are in a cave, it's very dark. So at some point, people started to use wood and even peat moss to create shelter. But the issue with that, it's very dark. So what can you do? So you can put little holes in the wall so that light can come in. The big issue with light coming in is that at that point, you have a hole on the side of the house that allows for the coldness to come in. And that's been a big issue over the millennia on how to create housing. Now, if you are closer to the equator, if you want some light on the wall, you put a hole, and that's okay. Wind will come through, light will come through, and it's amazing. But if you go further north or in the northern hemisphere and further south in the southern hemisphere, then you end up with times when it's colder, in which case, if you want light, you need a hole on the wall, but the bigger the hole, the more the light, but the bigger the hole, the more the coldness can come in the winter. So this idea of being able to have Muscovite or to have here a mica that can cover part of the hole on the wall, but to prevent also cold to come straight in, that makes a big difference. So I have to say that civilization grew to the way we were in some ways due to the invention of glass windows. Perfect. Another mica here, we have Fuchsite, if I remember well, no, Paragonite. So here, these are microcrystals. So here we don't see the shape of individual crystals, but we can see the mini crystals, and here you could see there's a sheen to it. We have an example here. So when you have metamorphic rock, you have compression. Compression coming on both sides, pressure increases. If there's a lot of fluid, the fluid will come through, will leach a lot of the minerals, a lot of the ions in there, and you end up with a light colored mica like this. Now, when I was doing mineral exploration, we needed that in many ways. So here are an example of my collection when I was looking for this green mineral here. Let's see if I can put some. So here you could see it's nice and green. So this one here is just because, oh, I lost the name. It's, I don't know if anybody, it is? Okay, so what is it called? I can't remember that. I had it in mind about 10 minutes ago. Malachite, there you go. So here you have malachite, which is a copper carbonate, but here you have sediments. As you could see, we have layered sediments, but over the millions of years, there's been pressure, and the pressure here has created changes in chemistry. And if you move it like this, you could see on the side a little reflection of light with the microcrystals of mica. And what happened when you have mica and pressure goes here, then it creates a chance to move a little bit. And that's why when we have metamorphic rock, the plane of shearing is along the plane where we have mica. I need to cough a little bit. Give me a second. Okay. Another example. So this part is I picked up in a mine. It's what Doyon mine. I showed this sample earlier. So here we have a rock I picked up on the ground, and you could see the lines right here. And as you can see, it also has two flat parallel sides. And the reason for that, this is part of a long fault line, several tens of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers, that in the Abitibi gold mine belt. And what happened here, you have pressure going this way, pressure going this way. So what happened, it created pressure, increased temperature, increased movement of minerals, but also some sulfides, iron sulfides. We have gold and other metals that came through. So here in the mine, we have sections of fault line. And here we have, with all the original chemistry is gone. But if you can look at the surface, you can see the reflection here, and often this type of, there you go, this type of mica is called sericite alteration. So here you had fluid going through, leaching some of the ions for here, which is good for mining because it deposited some of those ions in other places, creating altered rocks. And these are clues for us. Another type of mica is Fuchsite. So here's an example of Fuchsite that I picked up on a project in Northern Ontario. And as you can see, it's green. So this one is a green mica, and it contains a bit of chrome. And the idea that of a little chrome in the mica changes the color. So in this project here, and if I show, you have here the green mica, you can also see some quartz here. So we have Fuchsite, and we have some silicification of this rock right here. In this one, there is no gold mineralization. However, it's a clue that we had movement of fluid in a metamorphic zone, in a fault zone. And we're looking for how to use this as a clue and maybe find gold mineralization at some point. So this idea of when you have mica, it is based on metamorphism. So that means there's been pressure and temperature that change the chemistry. And you're going to say, how is it that it's creating those nice little flakes like this? Because when you have pressure going on a rock like this way and this way, then this pressure going here, pressure going there. So that means that the only way we can have minerals growing in this environment is to be perpendicular to the forces. The only way that is perpendicular to this force here and this force there is that 2-dimension along the fault line. So this is an example. Or if you're here and you have sediments are being piled up. This reads better this way. So sediments are being piled up, and then you have a pressure here. And if you have metamorphism and change in the landscape, you can have a change in how the minerals are. So these are the examples of what I wanted to share with you today. So if you have any questions related to mica, put your questions in the comments below. I'm going to be looking at those, answering them, and using some questions for future videos. Otherwise, I'm going to put here a link to another video that I will probably on the garnet, on this sample here with we have the biotite that is black, but the garnets here, I made a video not too long ago, so I'm going to put a link to that video. I'll see you in the next one.